Welcome to Empowerment Radio. My name is Dr. Friedemann, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Empowerment Radio is about giving you the insights, tools, and solutions to address some of the most challenging aspects of our daily lives. So sit back, relax, and empower yourself.
Loss and grief, how can we do this in a way that doesn't hurt us even more than it already hurts to have lost someone? And I talked about emotions, and when it comes to emotions, many of us are really just illiterate because no one teaches us about emotions. We are feeling them. Usually we are avoiding them, besides when they're good, when we deem them as to be good. But anything that's kind of, uncomfortable, dark, pulling you down, making you not really fun to be around, we shove it aside. And so when we are facing those emotions, we are kind of clueless. What do we do? What do they mean? How do we deal with them? And so I want to just tell you a little bit about what you can do when you have those emotions. Like, let's start with that confusion. Well, the mind is confused or is in disbelief when something like this happens, like the shock, because the mind tries to make sense out of it. And in the moment of loss, it doesn't feel like there is any sense. It doesn't feel like there is anything to really understand. And that feels in itself really overwhelming and confusing. And so what you want to ask yourself, and that's really the key about dealing with emotions, what is really the question behind the emotion? What's the message behind the emotion? So for example, when you're listening to the shock or confusion, maybe it says like, will this always be now something like a heavy cloud in my mind? Will I never really feel safe again? Like when I woke up with anxiety and shock and confusion when my parents died, it was like, am I really safe? It was like this little boy inside of me calling out on someone, in this case it was me, who is my safety net now? And then, I had to really respond, and I had to give an answer to that and say, I have been taking care of myself since, I'm 20 years old, so I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry about this. And so that shifted the emotion. So what you may want to ask yourself is, what am I feeling confused about? What don't I understand? Which are the things right now I cannot really wrap my mind around? And what answers do I need to find for that? And that in itself gives you a little bit more of, not only feeling that you're attending to your emotions, but you're actually guiding your emotions. You're making your emotions not just a fact that you have to deal with, but an energy that you can also guide and shift. After all, emotions are energy in motion. And that's the same with anger. When you have anger, just understand the anger is basically just covering up the sense of powerlessness and pain. And so the anger is often just this is not fair, and this is wrong, and how dare this person to leave me alone, and all of those kind of things. And it feels more empowering when you feel really powerless, when something feels like it has been done to you and it wasn't your choice. And so being more also aware of, what does the anger really need? It needs a sense of control. It needs a sense of power. And so there it can be just simple, practical things that help you to release the anger and say, I'm going to right now take care of that, what I can really be in charge of. And, this way, that sense of feeling, again, out of control disappears gradually. And with sadness, every tear, I always say, is a bridge to your heart. Any tear and sadness we are feeling is actually kind of cracking open our heart. And I will never forget this client of mine who lost her son, 6 months in the womb. And, after that, it was a surprise for her to get pregnant after that loss. The grief was so overwhelming, and she did go into complete sadness, depression, hopelessness. She felt angry at her husband for not wanting to try again to have a child. She felt depressed. She felt jealous of everyone else who had children. that went on and on and on. And she shut down more and more and became more and more a dark shadow of herself. And when we started working together, she didn't really have a lot of hope that this can ever feel. It was like this unborn child was basically now her life sentence on how she will have to deal with life and herself, forever, because she could never imagine to be able to let go of this pain. And what she discovered was that really this unborn child was an enormous catalyst for her to open up her heart. That sadness, that pain made her get in touch with so much pain and sadness that she had suppressed since her childhood, that she had never dealt with, and that she never wanted to deal with. In fact, she had a little bit this, I have to take care of myself. I have a tough shell around me, and I will not feel, and I will not let anyone get too close. So feeling so much pain for someone she ever never met, but she felt so close at the same time, made her also really have to deal with a lot of woundedness inside of her. And that transformed her. That transformed her in so many ways. It made her so much more a person who actually cared, who could have eventually a sense of love and belonging and appreciation that she never really had since her early years. So there was a gift with that. And there is a gift with sadness. It can bring you closer to yourself. It can make you more connected to your heart. It is just a matter also of tending to the sadness in a way that you are seeing the void that the sadness ultimately bemoans. This is where the mourning comes from. There is a void in my heart. There is a huge loss. There's something ripped away, and I'm sad about that. And that's absolutely understandable. But if you are seeing this void as something that you can attend to, but also something that you can eventually fill with, not the person that you lost or whatever it is that you lost, but fill with something that is yours, something that you can feel like, yeah, I am actually now filling this void with a greater sense of compassion, a greater sense of, letting people actually see me for who I am, a greater sense of authenticity. There is real transformational power in that grief and that sadness. Now, so we talk about taking care of your body, taking care of your emotions, and I cannot get into the regret and the guilt. That's a whole topic in itself, but don't forget to also forgive yourself. And in that regard, I always recommend people to say, the person that just passed, would they want you to spend time in grief, beating yourself up? Would you want, as the one that just transitioned and moved on to wherever, hopefully to heaven, would you want that this person feels now, oh my God, I left, and look, my son, my daughter, my brother, my sister basically are just in this agony of shame and regret and remorse? And that's not how you want to be remembered. And that's not how you want to remember the person that passed. Always keep in mind also, and that's the next step, what is the gift of the person that passed that you want to hold on to? What is the gift of that loss? And there are so many gifts. When I think about my parents, there are so many things that I really cherish. These are not just memories. These are not just, wonderful times and vacations. And my parents love to eat. So, we just spend a lot of time with, 3-4 hour meals and just enjoying, all these wonderful culinary things that, they introduced me to. But I learned so much about life from them. I learned so much about, the love for people, for elders, for animals. There are a lot of good imprints. There's like a whole treasure chest inside of me that I feel, and that's a real good question to always ask yourself. I feel that's a legacy that I want to continue to share with the world. So ask yourself about the legacy of the person that left. And sometimes the legacy is actually learning how to be the opposite. Sometimes it's about saying like, wow, I was such a great teacher in, really never having time to smell the roses and enjoy life fully. And now, sadly, the person walked away from life before ever really having slowed down. So the legacy can also be, thank you for showing me that life is impermanent and that I do need to slow down and really cherish more what is. Just be aware of every loss also has a gift, and every person that moves on has something that they can, give you after they moved on. And for that, you will always be grateful for their presence. I don't want to look at, the 45 years of living with my parents, or, knowing my parents just defined by losing them. I want to always look back and think about the wonderful times we had. And I often still have dreams of them where we're sitting together again, eating, and I tell them, well, I thought you were dead, but now you're here. And it's still a little confusing in my subconscious, but it's certainly something that's very pleasurable, and it always puts a smile on my face when I think about it. And so if you want to just, while you're grieving, already cherish more the gift that the one that is gone left with you, you certainly can also help your mind to see this not just as a ripping away, but also as, well, there is so much fullness inside of me all at the same time. When we come back, we talk more about grief and what can actually be the gift of the grief itself. Is there a spiritual connection? Is there a life lesson in all of that? So we'll be right back with that.
Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.